Pheasant Productions presents the Math of ESP, why it works even if you don't believe in it. Obviously, this is day 75, February 6th. I'm still alive, yes. I've lost, at this point in time, about 30 to 35 pounds of body weight. And as a landscape photographer, no, I didn't have a whole lot of excess body fat to get rid of. So yes, I am feeling, the effects of the weight loss and stuff. I'm very little food left, but one, like I keep saying, remember, you people pray to go to heaven after you're dead, and you don't do anything to even ensure yourself that there is a heaven to go to. And you also don't even bother to check and see if your heaven is the same as your wife's heaven, or your girlfriend's heaven, or your son's heaven, or mommy's heaven, whatever, whoever you plan on being there with. So at least I am doing what I believe in while I'm still alive. I am 61 years old, and I was about 8 years old when I started studying the yogic philosophies and the yogic history itself in India. Before there was the big taboo here in America, when the gurus started coming over, there was a purge in a lot of ways of some of those other philosophies and books and things. It became a little harder to find and get to. I'm sure now they're going to do a much better job of purging anything like that if they can. But you have to understand that in India it was quite normal for a guru to walk around handing out food that literally just appeared in his hand as he put his hand forward to people. So there's nothing wrong in that idea. In one account I read that a scientist spent several months working with this guru and watching him and recording stuff down. The guy would walk around and he would hold his hand out, and sacred ash would fall from his hand as he walked. And the guy kind of laughed at the idea. He's got a robe, he's got long sleeves and all of that. But if you were to put a wheelbarrow under his hand and walk with him as he walked around, he would end up, in a single session, putting out as much as a 55-gallon barrel would hold. So obviously this man didn't have a 55-gallon barrel on his back that nobody could see unless he knew magic, and therefore, and then the second part of that sacred ash that was extremely perplexing to the scientists was the fact that when they examined it under a microscope, it was extremely fine and crystalline in nature. And the moment you really put any pressure on it, the crystalline would crust and and break down to a much finer dust. But it was quite complex, and it was quite a bit of stuff. I don't remember what the chemical composition was produced out of that. But needless to say, this guy did this repeatedly. Guy went out and did this several times during that person's stay, so they saw it. They saw him and recorded him handing hot food to people as he walked through town or something like that. So there were various instances of this. Then you have the shaman of North America, South America, Central America, Europe, Africa, all the way up into all of Eastern Europe, Russia, Eurasia, China, Japan, and on back around. You've got the Aborigines on the Australian continent that still are rather strong in their connection and beliefs of a spiritual realm, dream walking, and they have a history that goes back some 35,000 to 40,000 years of using this stuff. So one is not insane to think so. And one of the fun things, like I pointed out, is that if you pick up that Bible that goes around chastising everybody for having any belief or any kind of a witch thing and burning them at the stake and all, that you're a terribly, terribly bad person, that person or that church is directly blaspheming the spiritual realm, because 1 Corinthians 12 specifically states that the spiritual realm decides who gets spiritual gifts. Not a pope, not a priest, not a nun, not a preacher, not a person sitting in the back row of a church, not a psychiatrist, not a drug company, not a government. Get the hint? They have all blasphemed the actual Holy Spirit. They have blasphemed the spiritual realm by saying they are greater than that which created them. So for me to sit here and realize that I'm running out of food, I'm going into a fast, I'm now eating a very small amount of food per day. I have a very small amount of food left, and I'm stretching it as far as I can. At this point in time, a week or two ago I might have eaten in a single day, I've now eaten over a period of 3 days. But I am also doing a lot of meditation. I am a lot of console with myself. I don't have anybody on the outside that I would trust. But anyway, my situation, strange as it is, if you go and you read the spiritual stuff, you'll find that I am actually 100% in line with that. I will put in, I guess, a sarcastic remark from the spiritual realm that, yeah, part of it is because you humans are so bad about taking care of your planet, and we're going to get into that in a moment, they needed me to do the miracle thing and put me in a position where I have to try and figure out how to do something that is absolutely incredible. I understand it. I know it. There's way too much knowledge going back, 5 decades, 50 years or more. I've been studying this stuff, learning it, reading it in every place, every language, every possibility. I know it from quantum physics all the way down. Actually, I know it from Math of ESP all the way down. I was going to started thinking about writing Math of ESP, when I was very early teenage years. It was one of the first things outside of my poetry that ever got consideration to publish. So I have no problem with what I'm trying to do. It is a little weird trying to do it under what is basically a very rushed situation, but I'm doing it, I'm handling it. And I have to kind of laugh at the world outside because you guys, 2020 election, everybody's already ranting and raving and jumping up and down for it. It's 2 years away, and your world's going to pieces. I mean, we've got I think it's Winter Storm Mathis is the one I just saw something on, and I haven't even listened to the weather report yet. But if you are at M, that means you have had 13 weather storms so far. 13 named storms roll across the United States, and they are taking quite a toll. And one of the things that, now let me get my note here because I got to try and say this really fast to keep it short enough. One of the things, you've got the weather losses as a regular, but a lot of people don't stop to think about what all is going on. So it's winter, there's not a lot of crop losses you're losing, but when these really deep sweeps of that polar vortex go all the way down into the southern states and down into Florida and Mexico and California, and then they are, followed by 5, 6, 7 days of a warm spell where you are like 20 degrees warmer than you're supposed to be. All of your trees, nut trees, fruit trees, berry trees, things like that start trying to go into bloom, and then they get shut down. and then they open up, and then they get shut down. And so you're going to lose crop again, okay? You also have all of your infrastructure, and it's starting to happen where roads are breaking down, pipes are bursting, there's a gas pipe. In San Francisco, I guess it just burst for a big fire there. There's, were pictures of water lines burst all over the place in the Midwest to East Coast, which is getting another super freeze right now, and it's getting another dose of rain, and then it's going to have a freeze behind that. So you see, this whole thing just kind of like cascades on you. And then you also have the fact that schools are closed, businesses are closed, power outages, all of the big automotive people in the Detroit, Chicago area, type of thing, they had to be shut down because of issues of lack of power, because the power grid was going down and being taxed so hard. So how many thousands of employees had to take a day off? Whether they take the money out of their pocket, they take the money out of their accumulative time off hours, or the company takes, gives them pay for that, or the company just takes the loss of not having those employees do any kind of work that day, all production stopped, you are taking a big financial hit. And if you stop and look at the financial news of the world right now, yeah, every country is diving, and as one site put it, the federal bank has to keep printing, but he kind of laughed and said it doesn't matter which one, whether it's the Japanese Japanese, the EU, the IMF, the United States Federal Reserve, one of these countries, even China, they have to keep printing money. And what happens when you sit there and you keep printing money is you water down what you have. It's called inflation. Or you are actually deflating the value of whatever you have in your hand. Or better yet, if I sell you a piece of stock in the company of Vanderbilt Photography, and I sell it to you for $1, you have the only 100 shares of stock besides me. I've got the other 900 shares out of 1,000. Your stock is worth something, okay? It goes up or down. If I turn around and I do a not dividends, but if I do a stock split and I go and I make another 9,000 shares, your 100 shares just lost an awful lot of money. And that's what happens every time one of these, federal banks out there somewhere starts the printing presses up and keeps making more fake money. So you have an awful lot of problems. You have infrastructure breaking down. The bread and circuses of everybody everywhere is going like crazy. Yeah, you don't have too good of a place out there, so I think an awful lot more of you might want to think about saying, go Peter, go! Because by golly gimbos, you just might need the miracle that I'm trying to create for myself, for you folks. So anyway, OccupyISS, International Space Station, we're still alive, day 75.